our business goes where where there's growth, and the way I look at it, even the transatlantic or the trans-Pacific trade agreement, from what I understand, the concept of that agreement started back in the 80s. And so that's 20, 25 years ago. And so this is not something that's happened very quickly, even though there seems to be more of an emphasis on it now. But in that same time period, I remember back when I first visited China, back in the, it was probably the early 90s. It was very closed, and it was very difficult to do business in China. Since that time, there's been a lot of growth, and the Chinese have probably signed more trade agreements in the last few years than we probably have in the last 20, 30 years. So, if we're not on top of this, we're going to be a secondary player. We've been the major economic power in the world, and if we want to stay that way, we really need to kind of move up our mark here, and start to take a little more forceful look at trying to get some of these things done. So, I hope that this free trade agreement goes through. I think it'll be beneficial to us to have less barriers to trade. Our distributors, for example, in Malaysia is a good example, and I know they're one of the countries that are involved with the Trans-Pacific trade agreement, is that they have very high tariffs, and so our equipment becomes very expensive by the time you have to pay for the shipping, and then you have to pay for the duties and everything else to to bring the product in. If that was more level, and we didn't have to have these duties and taxes and easier flow back and forth, it would be very beneficial for us.